Hey everybody, we are Team Panda's Crazy for Bananas, and this is our team mascot, the panda with a banana. Our team members from left to right in the picture are Vikram, Karthik, Christina, and Dhruv. Our topic is Obsessive Compulsive Disorder, or simply OCD. What is OCD? It is an anxiety disorder characterized by two main traits, obsessions and compulsions. Let us understand this disorder through the eyes of an OCD patient. Meet our friend Naomi.
My obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD, started when I was in junior high. I started to get totally stressed out by the order of things. I was fixated on making sure everything was put in the perfectly right place all the time. I felt that I had to do it, like I had no choice. I knew that what I was doing didn't make any sense and that I should just stop doing it, but whenever I tried to stop, something took over in my brain and I just had to keep going. But that wasn't all. I also had these very upsetting pictures in my mind, like dreams, but I was awake. They were images of terrible things happening as a result of a mistake I made. I saw my grandparents being murdered by an intruder who entered the house through a door I left unlocked. I became convinced that I was going to cause some life ending event as a result of my carelessness.
These were obsessions. They are unreasonable thoughts and fears that intrude a patient's mind and do not allow his or her brain to function normally. These obsessions ultimately fill up the patient's brain with anxiety. Now let's take a look at one of Naomi's coping mechanisms.
One of my compulsions was ordering. There was a time when I stopped going to school because I would spend 5 or 6 hours in my bathroom or kitchen making sure things were in their correct place. It's so hard to explain in words, but I felt like if I didn't arrange these things that something terrible would happen.
What we just saw was one of Naomi's compulsions. A compulsion is a task performed by a person with OCD in order to reduce his or her anxiety temporarily until the obsessions start to build up anxiety again. This vicious cycle between obsessive and compulsive behavior is what OCD entails. Now let us try to understand what goes on exactly in Naomi's brain. Imagine there is a person looking at a table with dirt on it. In the brain of a normal person, the thalamus gets signals from the eyes and relays them to the frontal cortex. The frontal cortex then senses there is dirt in the picture it received and relays this information in the form of electrical signals to the basal ganglia. These electrical signals are dampened or inhibited by the caudate nucleus and then sent back to the thalamus to be redirected to the correct part of the brain that will deal with them, which in this case happens to be the frontal cortex. Now, the problem in the brain of an OCD patient is that the dampening of signals by the caudate nucleus never happens. This means that really strong signals reach the thalamus and are relayed back to the frontal cortex. Since the signals are strong, the frontal cortex interprets them as more threatening than they are and sends them back to the basal ganglia and then to the thalamus, resulting in a loop of signals between the thalamus and the frontal cortex. Since the signals caught in this loop get stronger with each iteration, this leads to anxiety in the brain. It is due to this loop that a fairly normal detail ends up becoming an obsession. You might be wondering, so all of that is nice, but why does it matter to me? Well, here's why. More than 3 million Americans are diagnosed with OCD, which might seem like a tiny fraction, but that means around 6 of your Facebook friends on average will be diagnosed with OCD, and many people even go undiagnosed for years. In addition, OCD is not a lone wolf. It has been linked to a variety of mental disorders like depression, eating disorder, Tourette's, compulsive hair pulling, autism, schizophrenia, and many more. Most people with one anxiety disorder will generally experience another disorder as well. The ADAA notes that anxiety disorders are the most common form of mental illnesses in the US. They affect nearly one fifth of the US population. The worst part is that, on average, people live with mental disorders like OCD for 10 to 15 years before getting help or even admitting they need help due to the stigma of having a mental illness. In conclusion, OCD is an anxiety disorder that is not to be taken lightly, as it has been named one of the top most disabling diseases in terms of lost earnings and diminishing quality of life by the World Health Organization. So if you or anyone you know starts showing symptoms, do not let them wait 10 to 15 years and get help now. Thanks for watching and wish all of you an anxiety free health week.